Anybody there?
All right, welcome back to this week's edition of So You Want to Be in IT. We're a podcast aimed at those starting their journey out in the vast world of IT. We're talking navigating this world of IT as a beginner, from how to climb the ladder, how to break in, how to even office politics, how to navigate some of those. So, and then obviously everything in between. So I'm your host, Pat.
Hey, Dean here.
My man Dean's over there in Las Vegas. Here we are, episode 3. So we just keep climbing along, Dean. Man, we did 1, 2, or like a breeze. And here we are at 3 already. So this is really taken off. It's really given us an outlet to really talk to some of the other guys and girls out there that really want to break into IT, but really don't have an idea on how to or kind of where to start. So we're hopefully filling some of those gaps. So episode 3, this is great so far.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us again. And yeah, I think we're just going to be talking and finishing off what we discussed in episode 2. So if you haven't had an opportunity or chance to listen to that, I definitely recommend perhaps going back an episode and listening to episode 2 so you can fully captivate yourself and understand what's going on here. So.
Yeah, so episode 2, like Dean said, we talked help desk and how to sort of break in, some tips and tricks that Dean and I have seen over the years of what makes a good impression on the help desk, and sort of building your mindset to crack your teeth in on the help desk, and then kind of whittling down or focusing in on what you want to do from there and get a little more narrow focus. So, Dean, I think we're going to just continue that discussion a little bit today, and then also today we're going to talk about some hot topics, right? Some hot fields to get into within the IT space, right? So we'll talk about that a little bit later, and just kind of give you our 2 cents on what we see out here and what's good and what may interest you. So the help desk thing, Dean. So, we talked obviously kind of our tips and tricks, what we look for in a good help desk guy and what makes you sort of stick out. Is there anything else from your perspective that you think, hey, that guy's a good, or that gal has a good head on their shoulders? Is it more organizational skill? Is it more of a communication? Is there a technical aspect to that? Like where are you at on that?
So me personally, yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying. For me, I look for organizational skills for certain, due to the fact that most sort of engineers I've come across who seem to be sort of excelling in their field, their organization, their documentation, their preparation when they do sort of upgrades or new integrations or things for the first time, it's well documented. And if there is no documentation out there, they tend to create cheat sheets and share it with the team. So I look for those ones who are like eager to learn and take off the cover of technology, are able to just explain it in their own kind of way and fashion back to the team. So yeah, that's definitely a big plus for me.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Organization is going to be key, especially if you develop habits, or I should say good habits, early on. They're going to carry with you later on in life, and when you get into more of the murky waters, so to speak, that that Dean and I are kind of in now. But I personally, I think organization is a major player to your growth professionally and as a person, really. I mean, I use it in the day-to-day life, as well, with keeping bills straight. And
absolutely. Usually good documentation should take you actually longer than
agreed.
Implementation. So that's something to think about. I know it's a pain, and sometimes that doesn't make sense. It is necessary. I always found that a challenging concept to comprehend. Why should it take me longer to plan than it is to implement, especially when I can just go ahead and do it? But you go ahead and do stuff, and you end up breaking or missing a step, and it works, but it doesn't work quite right. So yeah, it's definitely good to get your ducks in a row and figure out what you're doing, and just do it stage by stage, and just trust in the process.
Yeah, I agree. And for me personally, one of my favorite organizational tools is Trello. So basically, Trello is a fancy platform for a Kanban board. So you just, you move things from, not started to in progress to complete sort of thing. And Trello is very good with me, or for me, I should say, in that space. I keep my personal life sort of organized in that manner, and then also the professional life as well with Trello. And I like the visual of, okay, I have 10 things on my to-do list, 4 of them haven't been started, 5 are in progress, and 1 is complete or whatever. And then so it gives me that visual of, okay, this is what I'm staring at in the next week or so, to really break those down into smaller pieces and kind of conquer all with because you can conquer more if they're in smaller chunks than one huge daunting task.
Absolutely, yeah, I definitely agree with you there.
So
that's what sometimes put people off. So yeah, I definitely feel that we've got a good handle on that.
So I think Trello is a great tool. There's other ones out there. Trello I think is the best for me personally. It works. My brain kind of wraps around what it's trying to do in the layout of that. So I'm a big Trello fan. And then kind of spinning off of that, as far as from a help desk perspective, I think from what makes a good help desk person to try to that's just breaking in, right? That's fresh off the boat sort of thing. I think writing things down as they go and sort of building their own knowledge base, if you will, their own internal knowledge base, so they can
Absolutely.
Reference that next time that they come across the same problem or something similar, right? So they don't have to kick it up to the tier 2 or tier 3 guys. It's literally hey, I had this problem reared its head, and the only thing I had to do last time was reset their AD password, right? And let me try this again. Oh, worked. Okay, great. See you later. So building your own knowledge base as a guy on the front line, so to speak, is a major plus, both to yourself. You're doing yourself a service, and B, to your management, whoever that may be, or however far up the chain it goes. In that aspect, I'm seeing initiative. I'm seeing not just somebody in a ticket queue and sort of to me that person gets the big picture as far as, okay, that person wants to help and in the essence of time, right? So right. Solving that as a first call resolution sort of thing, as we like to call it in the industry. So doing that, and or trying to really, like I said, build their own knowledge base so they don't have to lean on other folks as heavy, and that just makes yourself look better, and it grows your knowledge. It grows you as a good tech, for your future endeavors.
Yeah, it does, because people then hand you more responsibilities, and then you're level 1 tech doing level 3
Yep.
stuff, and they're like, how are you doing that? Well, because the level 3 team trusts me to do it, or you're working closely, or you have that mentor relationship, or you're watching people over their shoulder. That's how you really move on in life. They invite you at night for upgrades that you really shouldn't be a part of. Yeah, you just learn. It's just if you show interest, people in the industry are definitely, in my experience, are definitely happy to have the helping hand. I don't think anyone is going to turn down off a resource, especially when they're doing stuff on their own or they're unsure about stuff. It's just good to have checks and balances and the respect that, like, especially a lot of the work we do at night, because it's service impacting, like you might fat finger some configuration and necessarily put the wrong address in or the wrong config in. It's good just to have a second pair of eyes to make sure that things are going cleanly. So yeah, I definitely give you that. Absolutely.
Yeah, and like I said, it's only going to help you in the future, kind of climb that ladder, and it's for me, I think it's a discipline thing too, right? So if you're disciplined enough to write down notes or to jot down whatever form note works for you, right? So whether it's just chicken scratch on a piece of paper or manual, right? So you're actually writing it down on paper, or if you're on a Trello board and you're moving, you're typing things up.
How do you spell that Trello? What is that?
Trello.
Trello.
Yep.
Okay. So it's Trello.
Yeah. So I think it's Trello.com. I think that's what it is. If you guys want to check that out. So,
yeah, you should put it in a Discord board too.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw
the folks there.
Yeah. So it's
awesome.
It has a web app, and there's obviously a cell phone app for it, but it's all web based. So there's no
sweet.
There's nothing to download or anything like that. So it is a login. You got to sign up, whatever. But I use multiple Trello boards for multiple ways of life. So,
Nice.
so I think if you're disciplined enough to really write that stuff down or type it into a Trello board,
I don't think it has to be discipline. Like I've a lot of my mentors wouldn't even teach me if I didn't have a pen or paper.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to go over it. Like we're not doing this twice. So
right.
You can, like I'm not going to show you again. You can ask the next time we do this. You're going to be asking questions on maybe stuff you missed, but we're not doing this whole full endeavor again because if you didn't write notes, that's your problem.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
You know what I mean? If I spent the time like especially when some of these things are like 8 hours, you need to be writing notes. You can't expect to absorb all that in your mind. Okay, there's a few exceptional people who are able to do that, but the majority of us don't have that ability.
Yeah, agreed. And I think the other piece of that is as far as trying to get to that next level or trying to understand what happens at that next level. Because to be honest, like I think a lot of help desk guys don't understand what goes on at the next level, both from a paperwork perspective and from a technical perspective, and we don't expect them to.
For sure.
It just, there's a lot more into it than logging into a switch and spinning up a new, VM, or anything along those lines. So, for me, if you're really kind of anxious and kind of get a glimpse into what happens at the next level, if your company has a change management process, look at a couple of the changes that are open, like what's happening at that week or in that, in those 2 weeks, whatever your change management window is. Say, okay, look, we're spinning up a new VM for X, or we're, putting in a new switch for, site B, whatever it is. So look at those sorts of things, and that'll kind of give you the glimpse of what's happening at that next level. And then you sort of, that bigger picture gets a little more clear.
Yeah, I agree. Not just gets clearer. You can see people on the change request and ask those engineers or team project managers and stuff like that to be a part of that change window. So it's all great learning. It's all knowledge, and just be a part of it.
Yeah. So just getting change control and getting yourself familiar with A, the process, and B, what's going on in your environment with change control and who things are assigned to, what they're doing, and just getting involved in that change control process. Because I'll tell you what, change control in the last, I would probably want to say the last maybe 2 or 3 jobs for me has blown up substantially. Like I've gone through multiple companies that they all have their own change process, and all of it's a little different, right? So there's not really a one size fits all, cuts the mold sort of thing. But you're gonna have to, at this level, at Dean and I's level, tier 2, tier 3, and etc. You're going to have to get familiar with change control because it's literally everywhere. And at least for me, Dean, I'm like, oh, this change control, it's red tape, it's paperwork, it's blah, blah, blah. But there's obviously a purpose to it, right? And I've had change controls that have gone terribly wrong. And I'm like, and that change control window has saved my bacon more times than I care to admit. But there's a purpose for it. So if you do want to climb this ladder, you got to get used to change control and learning how it works, at least from a engineer perspective, from front to back sort of thing.
Yeah, it depends what industry you're into.
Yes.
A lot of that stuff is regulated, and that's how the regulations and making sure you're compliant is done through sort of change management, change control. So it's really important from even a compliance standpoint to make sure that you're addressing the right needs. And a lot of the times when it goes up the change management hierarchy, you can't actually get stuff done. Like this, sometimes it needs approval before you can even allow to even do your implementation. So yeah, it's definitely important. Yeah, a lot of them do. A lot of them need to. They go to different teams and different directors, and it could be like 2 weeks sometimes you're looking at for things to get approved. There's obviously emergency changes that can be done, but again, that still needs to go through the ranks, so to speak. And it can be challenging, tough, and it can also take a long time. So it's definitely, I would say, something to pay attention to, and it's not something you get in the general Cisco book or something you learn online or like an online learning activity, such as you know the ones out there.
Yep.
However, it's definitely something apparent in industry, and I would say even at a lower level, some sort of knowledge of change management and change control should be expected of.
Yeah, agreed. And that's more like Dean said, that you're not going to find that in a Cisco book. You're not going to find that in a MCSE book, right? That's just that comes with just pure experience and being in that environment, right? So change control can vary from there's a change control call every day or once a week, every other week, whatever that is. So just it really depends on your company's structure on how change is rolled out and how closely it's followed. Because I've been a part of some places that follow it loosely, and some follow it down to the T, down to the letter. So it really depends on your environment. But the more I am involved with it, and the more I have to do it, yes, it is a pain because you're like, oh, I can't really do this until I have a change controller, whether that be a standard change or stuff that doesn't need approval, et cetera, et cetera. But the paper trail has to be there.
Absolutely. Otherwise, it can cause a lot of friction, and you're going to make a lot of enemies if you don't follow the process.
Oh yeah, been there.
So it's not worth doing.
No, and for that couple of minutes that it takes for you to spin up a change to save your ass, so to speak, that is well worth it to me. To be honest.
You got to get something documented in the system.
Exactly.
And you can't do stuff without leaving some sort of paper trail so that your organisation or your teams or department know what's actually going on. Otherwise, everyone else is in the dark, effectively.
Yeah, agreed. And like Dean said, a lot of these places have to do it to be compliant, right? So whether you're PCI compliance or HIPAA, right, Dean, with you in the healthcare industry, right? HIPAA and and the Privacy Act over in Europe. GDPR, right? That's another one.
Oh absolutely.
That's a huge one, right? So you have to be in that framework of don't touch anything without a change, or else you could really start to have
consequences.
Some issues.
Yeah, for sure.
Agreed. So change control is a big one. Get used to that. Get familiarized with it, even if you're just reading it, right, and sort of following it from start to finish. Okay, what's the ask? What's the remedy? And then look at your approvers and say, okay, look, this person approved it, or this person approved it, or it goes through multiple people, or however that structure is warranted. Just getting familiar with that whole change process is going to be a major feather in your cap, so to speak. Once you already know what the change process is and how it works at your existing environment, then you get promoted, you get up the chain. That's less you have to learn at that level, which obviously is a win-win for everybody.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely, couldn't agree more.
And then I didn't really have anything else for the help desk or the breaking in point. The organization I wanted to mention, and then obviously some change control, and then we talked about if you tune into episode 2, we talked about mentors and things of that nature, and kind of latching on to a higher tier person and following the ticket all the way through, et cetera, et cetera. So those were some of the big talking points that we kind of wanted to hit on and see get Dean and I's temperature of our past experiences and kind of lead you in that direction to say, okay, look for this, but be aware of this.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Just the potholes, just to avoid them, so that we're all going to trip up in a few. But the obvious one sometimes, especially when I started out, I wish I had more of an idea just on what was going on at a higher level. Maybe not the details, but the service aspect of things and how the organisation is structured. And I just truly believe you can find a lot of that in just the processes and the company culture and the way they work. So, and then from that you can leverage and figure out better practices and share that with teams. It's just a wealth of knowledge and information from not just a technical standpoint, because I've learned multiple different scenarios such as disaster recovery where you don't make the change window, you have to roll it back, and effectively that's a part of disaster recovery we were implementing because we're halfway through the upgrade and we may have to schedule it or schedule more time. So it's interesting, and like I said, I'll keep saying it, there's a wealth of knowledge to be learned following the change management process, not just technical, but from an organisation perspective. And
Yeah, and I agree. And I'm glad you brought up DR because I have a story that I'd like to share. So when I was working at the data center, obviously they did data center hosting, colo, and obviously DR as well. So, the general gist of that is these companies that were contracted for they had space in the data center, but then they were also as part of their contract or whatever. They came in and tested their DR twice a year. So normally one in the spring, one in the fall. And then, and as the front desk guy, I saw all of them come through because I had to give them badges and the whole deal. And they basically set you up in a room, conference room, and you tested your DR for however many days you were contracted for, right? But most of them were 3 days and some of them were a week, whatever. So, they would come and go all week and so some DRs went really well. Some DRs did not go well at all. So it's like, and as the week went on, you saw the hair getting grayer. Yeah, they were like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. This doesn't work, blah, 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 this and that. So like, DR is a very stressful thing, especially if you don't test it regularly. You don't know it works. So it's like, how do you know, how are you really truly prepared for a disaster if you A, never tested your DR, and B, don't know it works? Like, can you honestly say, okay, yeah, we can send, however many people home, or hey, we have a data center I'll use over here in Pennsylvania. They're a data center in Philly, and we're backed up to somewhere in, out your way in Las Vegas, right?
Right.
With that transition, if Philly would literally blow up off the map, would that transition out to Las Vegas be seamless? Would they even know that they're going to Las Vegas? And most of the time the answer is no. Like, you have some sort of hiccup, in your DR process. And then, shout out to my buddy Kurt, who was like my first, mentor, and we mentioned him last podcast. But like, and he knew I wanted to get into networks, and him and I are close. We're still good friends to this day. So, and he'd be setting up for a DR, right? And he'd come get me and be like, we're gonna, I got to set up for this DR. I need to paint a couple ports on this switch, blah, 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 blah. And he'd let me shoulder surf, right? So he would do all the work, but he would let me shoulder surf. He would explain the process of, okay, look, this conference room ties into this patch panel, and I'm going to put it into these 3 ports, blah, 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 this and that. So I started to get the bigger picture as these guys were, kind of making themselves available to kind of show some of their ropes.
That's
so
awesome.
It really did help me from that perspective, more so from a technology perspective of okay, putting the pieces together, and then B, building that personal relationship with my man Kurt, and using him as a he's been in the business 30 years, so it's like using him as a wealth of knowledge to help me, not only at that particular time we were standing there on the data center floor, but now that was 3 jobs ago. So he's still helping me, like, to this day with weird issues, and I just bounce stuff off of him and he's got no problem. So there's a wealth of give and take out there, and if you find the right person and take advantage of that, and then also from a technical perspective understand what you're being shown. Because I think a lot of guys, and we don't expect you to know it all right, the first time we kind of open the book to you, right? That's unrealistic. But a lot of guys have the deer in the headlights look, if I want to use that corny analogy, that the first time they're being shown something, it's way over their head because they don't know, they don't see the bigger picture, so the smaller stuff is a little murky, I guess that's the way.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Like, you have to explain to someone what you're conceptually doing. We're tagging a port. Why are we doing that? For traffic isolation. Why do we do that? For security. Yeah. Why? Because we want to isolate particular types of traffic flows. Like, you can't, if you're just showing someone how to tag a port, you have to give a bigger picture of the why. And I think a lot of people go in, maybe know how to do the technical aspect, but they don't get the bigger picture on the why. Like, what's the point of all this?
Yep.
Like, what are we trying to achieve? Why are we doing this? Why does it have to be done this way? Why does it have to be done at night? Like, like there's a lot of learning of the why, and I don't think a lot of people ask the why of what they're trying to achieve, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but just challenge people to understand what they're doing, and it's not coming across as like I said, a negative thing to your mentors or anything like that. It's just trying to grasp that higher understanding of what's actually going on.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like there's a shortage between, or I should say a short circuit between pushing buttons and understanding the reasoning for pushing those buttons. Yeah. And a lot of the guys that are starting out they can't quite jump that gap of to why. And that, not saying you're not going to ever get there. It does. It comes with time. It needs to develop. It needs to grow. Nobody's asking you to, jump into the fire and put it out, so to speak, day two, right? So,
for sure,
but understanding the reasoning to why you're pushing that button or why you're adding that route or tagging that VLAN, that goes a long ways, and most of the time longer than the actual action itself.
Well, yeah, because if you just learn how to do the action or press a button or the type of command in a particular type of way, then you're just platform training a particular product. Whereas if you understand the why and the how aspect, think of it like a computer. Like when I'm transitioned from Windows to Mac back in the day, there's lots of things I could have done. For instance, a screenshot. I'm like, how do you print a page? I don't know how to print a page. It's actually a dedicated print screen button for a Windows machine, but there's none for the Mac. So it's Command and I don't know, Shift and 4 or something like that. I could figure it out, but understanding why I want to do a screenshot or having that capability and function and then translating it into a different product or platform is key for understanding and learning like new things. Like it might not be, like I said, how you put a route in a particular way. It might be your company might move on to different products or platforms, or you might have a new job, and that's old news now. So I definitely think the why is important, because actually how you do it is forever changing.
Yeah, no,
like with Devops coming online and people programming and doing weird stuff, it's gone beyond now the CLI command line interface in respect of doing things. People have fancy ways to do stuff, even with APIs, and even you before this podcast was telling me some stuff about Netbox and the sort of automation aspects of that. So it's just I still think the why is important. The how is always going to be changing. We're always going to be improving methodologies on how to sort of build networks, even with the implementation of SDN-WAN, with SDN networks, with the controllers and stuff. It's just made things a lot more simple. You don't need to necessarily know all that.
Yeah, I agree. I think the and Dean, you and I have been in this business long enough to know that, the tools constantly change, but the underlying technology hasn't changed in 40 years, right? TCP is still TCP. It's just how you deliver it is what's different. So, or UDP or any of those sorts of, VoIP is VoIP, right? So, so you're right. The tools do change, or how you deliver something changes, but at the end of the day, as long as that packet can get from point A to point B, that's all the customer cares about, to be honest. So there's a lot of masking behind the scenes, and there's a lot of band-aiding, and the band-aiding part, that'll be another show dedicated completely to band-aiding, because I have at least 1,000 stories about how things are band-aided and not done right, but that's, I digress. So, there's band-aids on top of band-aids, and then to the customer end, it works. That's all they need to know. So you're right. Things change. How we deliver things change. The core technologies are not going to change all that often, right? So it's learn your cores, learn your basics, and then whatever pool you decide to step in at that particular time, however it's delivered, whatever the hot buzzword is for that particular couple of years, is what you're mainly going to be doing, right? Because Dean, when you and I broke in, MPLS was the shit. MPLS was everywhere. They were like, this is great. We can do layer 2 MPLS. We can do layer 3. We can route whatever you want to do. We got it. And now, in the last, maybe 3-5 years, somewhere in there, now it's SD-WAN. Now it's aggregation and all these crazy buzzwords, and it's like, it has its place, but MPLS isn't going anywhere, at least not right now.
Absolutely.
So again, the delivery method changes, but whether it goes over MPLS or whether it goes over SD-WAN, that packet is still getting from point A to point B.
Precisely. Yeah, it's all internet plumbing, I should say, eloquently say. So, yeah, it is from point A to point B. What goes in must go out. So.
That's it. So, yeah, that was it. Dean, did you have anything else to touch? If not, we'll move on to what's hot.
Yeah, let's move on. Let's talk about that. Let's dive into that.
Yeah, cool. So, so the other piece of this is we wanted to talk about, so maybe you're out there and you like the idea of IT and you like, you want to be in IT, but you're not quite sure what avenue to put your car on, or to travel down, whatever you want to call it. Dean and I are going to take a few minutes to say what's hot in our space. Now, that's not saying it's hot in other spaces, and this is what we see on a day-to-day basis, and just being in the IT soup, as we like to call it. What's
Absolutely.
Hot and what we think is good, hot, it's going to last, whatever. So first and foremost for me, and I'm actually studying for this, is security. Security.
Oh, me too.
Oh my God! Hey, you want to be my friend? This is awesome.
What security are you studying?
I'm starting at the bottom, going for Security Plus.
Oh, nice.
So
I wish I started there.
So I'm doing Security Plus through CompTIA.
Is that CompTIA? Okay, yeah.
CompTIA.
I bet they got some really great. I might do that with you, actually.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good. I've heard good things about that.
Yeah.
Are those certifications live, or do they have are they like Cisco, like 3 years? I never remember.
I think they do have a shelf life. I don't know what they are, but
they do.
I think they do.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I'm so used to the security world. To the Cisco world, everything is 3 years. So, if I get this, I'll have something else in the next 3 years anyway. So hopefully to get that rolling. But yeah, I originally started with the CEH, the Certified Ethical Hacker. But then as I started to do that, my company provides a pluralsight.com training to us. So we literally can study anything that we want. So I started with CEH, and then I liked the content. The problem I had with it, and I had to kind of pull back a little bit, was it was a very steep learning curve to break in. So like, in order to take the exam, you either had to have 2 years of security, pen test, whatever you want to call it, security experience, or
define security experience. What does that even mean? So have a job with a security title, or like,
correct?
Okay,
yeah, correct.
Okay.
So you had to have an actual title with the security, and then prove you're in the security space for at least 2 years.
So that's just to take the exam.
Correct.
Holy moly!
Correct. And the other side of that, I know. The other side of that is it's either that, or so EC Council is the governing body to the CEH.
Yeah.
So you either had to do the 2 years, or you had to take the EC Council boot camp. It was like a 5-day boot camp. It was like $2,000, some crazy number. And I was like,
okay.
Ugh. So like, for me, I'm not at either of those spots, especially for something from a security perspective that I'm not gonna say I'm not, that I just broke into, right? So network and security are very closely intertwined. I've learned things on the job as far as that sort of thing, but like, I'm not at either of those two spots to really grab that cert at this particular time in
so life. You can't without paying basically ponying up the 2,000 or whatever that figure is, but round about that figure, or having 2 years, you can't.
I can't take it.
You can't take it.
Nope.
It's an exam. So tell me about the exam then. Is it a practical exam? Is it like a Cisco exam? Like, is it a bit of both? Like,
it's a little bit of both.
What do you know about that? Okay.
So it's 2 parts. So like, the first one is all, and I want to make sure I get this right. It's all it's a written exam. So it's just on a machine, whatever you want to call it. And then I believe there is a second part of that that's actually a practical, where you're actually actually on a terminal and, got your little black hat on sort of thing.
Nice.
And that, once you pass that, then I think it's 20 questions. So it's 6 hours. 6 hours, 20 practical challenges, they call it. And then after that, so the combination of the 4-hour multiple choice exam plus the 6-hour practical, 20 practical challenge, then you get the CEH Master is what they call it. So you can just have the 4-hour multiple choice, and that's just the knowledge base of it sort of thing. But most people couple that together with the skills and ability side, which is the practical side, and then you get this title of Master. So you don't need to have both to get a CEH, but most people do to get that Master title, I guess you want to call it. So, but for me, I felt like it was kind of steep to
What was steep? Like, tell me.
Well, steep as in there's a lot of hurdles here to literally for a break. For me, somebody breaking into the security side of things, I felt this one was a little steep to really kind of go into it and jump in both feet sort of thing.
Okay.
So that I scaled back a little bit to do the security plus, and I feel like that'll help me in the longer run, because security plus is an entry level. Let's be honest with ourselves. So and I'm not too proud to say I have to take an entry level exam, not at all. So I'm like, whatever. So for me, I feel like the security plus is more obtainable at this point in my career where I'm at security knowledge wise.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, security's I think it's a great subject, especially if you have a good fundamental knowledge of sort of route and switch and networks and how things are sort of working together.
Yep.
So it would definitely give you that foundation knowledge. So yeah, I think you're in a good place. In respect of going in security and starting at that level. So yeah, good for you.
And then the other thing that is really hot right now, at least in our space, is you've heard us talk about it before, is the Devops stuff. That is oh my god, I can't tell you how many people that I've seen on forum boards, and because I belong to a couple Discord chat channels here with some of my favorite instructors. They have Discord, so a ton of these people going, I'm going to do the DevOps, and obviously when Cisco puts a whole bunch of money and a whole bunch of resources into a new cert, that is going to go to the top of the list, right? So that's just the way it is. So
it is. Anything they start doing,
that's very prevalent right now is the DevOps space. For me,
I agree.
You know what, and I know network is taking a turn. I get it. There's more. There's less of the old engineer and more of the new, scripting and letting the machine work for you. Right now, where I'm at in my career, it's hard for me to wrap my head around a lot of the coding that comes with this network space. And I get it that I have to be foolproof for the next, for the future. I won't even say the next 10 years. It's going to be the future.
Yeah.
And maybe one day I'll get there as far as, okay, I really want to sit down and maybe one day it just clicks, right? Stuff like that happens. But right now, as I sit here and talk to you guys, it's hard for me to wrap my head around the coding aspect and making, basically starting with a script and then ending up with a fully blown automated built network. Like I can't make that bridge. I can't make that jump at the moment.
Okay. Have you tried?
That's interesting. I have. So basically, and this is full disclosure, I do use a couple Python scripts in my everyday job, as far as loops and dictionaries and things of those natures. But basically, what I did is I stole it from David Bomball. I took a Python for Network Engineers course on Udemy that he has. It's fabulous. It's fabulous, by the way. So if anybody is interested in that, David Bomball on Udemy, Python for Network Engineers. I took it, I did it, and it made sense. And I probably will have to go back and watch it again. But so through the course, he builds this Python script of just to do some basic things and XYZ. So I basically took that script, I stole it, and just plugged in my variables for what I needed it for my day-to-day job.
Yeah, that's how everyone starts out. That's how I started out. It's no big deal.
And I can take a Python script and look at it and say, okay, I can follow the logic in it as far as, okay, it's doing, this is this loop calls this for every IP in loop, blah, 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 blah. I can sort of do that. But anything outside of that, like Ansible or anything with APIs or Postman or Postgres, any of that kind of, all that true DevOps stuff that Cisco talks about and Hank and all those guys at Cisco with all those YouTube videos, it's not in my head yet. I can't wrap my brain around that.
That's just learning an API. I think you got I think it sounds like you got the fundamentals down. If you're talking about for loops and condition statements,
yep,
and you understand all that stuff, that's the most challenging part I find. And like when I first started out, and then the rest, like APIs, that's just an instruction set on how to write your code. So that's just going to vary on different types of APIs that are out there.
Yep.
However, because I've played with a few. I don't remember what they are now, but yeah, I've definitely sampled a few APIs in terms of the networking stuff. And it makes sense, but I reckon it would make more sense to you if you just kept doing it.
Yeah, and
if you kept plugging away, like, and you just, because that's all I done. I just literally just trial and error. And my first script was just to change the host name of the switch.
Yep.
And then you just scale it from there. You're just like, well, okay, if I can do that, let me automate a routing statement. And then, okay, if I can do that, let me automate, I don't know, changing a switch port.
Yeah.
And add in spanning tree onto that. And then just, you take little pieces and then the code, I found like the subroutines I wrote, you just stack them together and then you've got a full-blown program.
Right.
So I'm not saying it's elegant or best code, but I'm just like, it's like, I'm not a programmer. I can program, but I don't and I can program to get stuff done, but I would never say I'm a full-blown programmer.
Right.
Because I'm not.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's the whole shift from the network CLI line, guy that you and I grew up on, right? That's the stuff we cut our teeth on, to this move of network automation and letting the machine do the work sort of thing. I get the move. I totally get it. I understand the need for it. And to be honest with you, at my place we had to migrate. We had to migrate off of TACAX, off of ACS, and get on to Radius. And we have 360 sites throughout the U.S. So that means I had to do, for all intents and purposes, there's at least one switch at every office, and and AP as well, as Cisco AP. So and so I basically wrote a script. I wrote the script to say, okay, look, and this is a lot of work we have to do yet, but some of the switches out there were on the old 12 code, some of them were on the 15, and that CLI syntax is different per version. So I had to write multiple scripts to do multiple things to hit every device. So but I did it. I mean, it took me a few days to really get the trial and error and that sort of thing. But I did it. I did the script. I did a loop. And
what you can do,
it's crazy.
Is I'm not too sure if you did this in your script, but I had the same problem. And what I did was at the start of my script, I did a show versions to look at the code.
Yep.
And then if it's a 12, basically do the script in this particular way. If it's 15, do it in this way.
Okay, that's interesting. Because I had two different scripts, and then basically I had to get. So basically, I just referenced. I had another notepad of all the IPs that were on 12, all the IPs that were on 15, and then just referenced them in the script as part of the loop. I said for every IP in this list, do these commands. And then I basically did it for both sides of the house, and that was it. But that program, I mean, Dean, that would have taken us how long? That would have taken us weeks to do it by hand. I literally had that Python script written. Again, it wasn't the cleanest, and not pretending to be the cleanest. And I had to do it multiple times because I hit multiple hiccups along the way. But I mean, that was done in a half hour. Literally, it was literally done like that. And I was like, that saved me weeks of time. And I was like, maybe there is something to this Python thing. I really got to sit down one of these days and try to learn it.
Yeah, for monotonous work and the same repetitive task, it's a dream come true. Right?
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So DevOps is huge. You guys like the network and the dev side. DevOps is huge. Obviously now Cisco is full blown behind it. So obviously it's only gonna get bigger from here, right? So DevOps is huge. Security is huge. There's a lot out there now in the VMware space as well. I think VMware is like literally gonna like take over the world. Those dudes, like that company is literally buying all kinds of stuff, and
they got so much technology. I can't even
understand
how much they got. Yeah, they're running another round in the tech space for sure. But I think it's a lot of it's lost on consumership.
Yeah,
they have a lot of stuff, but a lot of it's for businesses. That I don't really see that end to end consumership for VMware yet.
Yeah, agreed. We're a big VMware shop at my place. Obviously on VeloCloud for SD-WAN, right? They're owned by VMware. We run NSX, which is a software firewall within we use it within the data center, but it can be used pretty much anywhere. So it's basically just a virtual distribution firewall. So it puts all your servers in its own gate, right? Its own blocked off, and you just open ports to what you need to. So NSX is huge. Shout out to my teammate Don, who deals all with that. He's really done well with that. So I hope he listens to this one day and here's the shout out. But Don is our man for the NSX side of the house. So shout out to him because he does a phenomenal job at it. But I just think VMware is they have so much in their bag of tricks that you can't go wrong with the VMware side. Obviously, it's virtual, right? So, I know and I shouldn't say this publicly, but I know very few companies that run solely just on-prem stuff anymore. Like everybody at least has some flavor of virtualization.
For sure, yeah. I'll give you that.
And shout out to my old boss, Jason, who used to be the head VMware guy at the New York Stock Exchange. So he's obviously very well versed in VM and got his, certs and all that kind of stuff, or had it. I don't know if he still has it, but shout out to him. But, VM, like, I think VMware is, as far as certifications and staying in that realm, they're almost on the line of Cisco. You could literally never branch out into outside of VMware because there's so much to do inside that VMware silo.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there is a lot. There's more than I can participate. I've just touched a tiny bit of VMware. I remember doing some classes a couple of years back, just understanding virtualization, VMware Center, just basic stuff. Just familiar myself with the whole virtualization. Again, you don't really learn about that in Cisco books. And when you go to work, it's like, it's a huge expectation to know virtualization of different products and platforms. And I just found that there's a huge gap in terms of being at sort of an engineering level and not knowing a lot of virtualization stuff. So, yeah, I definitely needed that to close that gap in knowledge and sort of participate in that course. And yeah, it definitely helped. I learned lots of different stuff, the architecture mainly, how it's all sort of built on, the blocks it's built on. It's a good course for sure. It definitely bridged the gap in terms of a lot of the networking and virtualization ideas and concepts at work for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you got all kinds of network stuff out there in the VM world, right? So, making virtual NICs on hosts and iDRAC addresses and management addresses, ESX, ESXi, literally any kind of virtualization, NSX, literally any kind of virtualization you can think of, VMware does it.
And the storage, the LUNs, different, the different types of where you put the applications on, if you doing it on like SSD or like slow types of storage. It's very interesting. And then looking at the performance, monitoring behind that, the IOPS, telling them how your system's performing. There is a vast amount of stuff there. It's interesting.
It is.
I've only peeled off a tiny bit of VMware, but there is a lot of stuff there. It would probably be, if I weren't so heavily in Cisco, it would probably be my second option, to be fair.
I agree. I've said that for years. I said if I had to start over, if I didn't have a love for Cisco, which I do, and sometimes it's to a fault, right? So we're all guilty of that. If I had to start over again, I would probably do VMware. is probably
me too.
where I would live.
I think, I follow you on that, because not only do you have the server aspect, you have just as much networking as well.
Yeah.
And
vSwitch
any other
and all
stuff
that
you
stuff.
have. Yeah. So, and then there's Cisco products or platforms that are virtualized, right? Like the CSR 1000.
ASAV, it all runs on VMware.
Yeah, so you still even get sort of look into that world, even if you decide to fully converge yourself to
100%.
the VMware world. So I look at it as a win-win.
Yeah, agreed. I could do VMware. Like I said, I know just enough to be dangerous, but from past from past employers. But this seems, where I'm at now, we're totally separate, right? There's a hosting team that does the VMware side and all the server side, and then there's a network side. So I don't get to touch any VMware where I'm at now. But previously I was doing a little bit of VMware, obviously the boatload of networking, things of that nature. So VMware is a fabulous choice if you're still kind of on the fence of where to kind of go. And actually, that brings me to another point. Do you think, Dean, that depending on what avenue you go into in IT is kind of based off of your personality? Is there any tie there, do you think?
Based on my personality, that's an interesting question.
So if you're an introvert versus an extrovert, or if you're if you like to chat or whatever, like, does that sort of dictate what realm of IT you play in? Because I know I think everybody in IT is sort of, at least to a degree, some sort of introvert, because that's just our nature. But even furthermore, that, like, does your personality play a role in what you bring to the IT table every day?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
It depends on. I think you would have to probably ask that question more granularly in the respect of, does my personality dictate, I don't know, what I'm going to be studying or trying to get into next? Not necessarily. I look at perhaps world events or what's going on in the industry or the demand, and that might necessarily sort of change my mind or deter my decision to go in a different path. However, I don't know. It depends how you how to interpret that question, really. How do you feel about it?
I feel like there's some truth to that. I think at all levels you're gonna have to be able to talk to people on a human level, right? But who doesn't?
For sure.
But I do feel like, for example, and this is just a generalization and whatever, but like those guys that delve into Linux, they're not the most social beings, at least typically, right? So all those guys that I know that know Linux front to back and sit there and hammer on a terminal all day, they're not accepting an offer to go out for beers at 5 o'clock. Like, they're more introvert. Like, that's what I mean. Like, is there some sort of correlation there to say, okay, I sit behind a desk and so my particular vein.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Maybe some people lean into those types of Linux administration roles so that they can be left alone. Like Torvald created that system because he didn't want to deal with other people. So maybe other people, maybe that's their. I don't know. I've learned Linux. I didn't certify in it, but I learned enough because of the free OS and the capabilities out there. But I wouldn't say I want to be a Linux junkie or an administrator. So yeah, I kind of get what you're saying in that respect, because those guys don't necessarily work in teams. They're very individual contributors. Right. So yeah, I see what I do. It's definitely an interesting perception in that regard, because I wouldn't say that would be I don't pick a certification because I want to be left alone, for instance. I wouldn't say, like, I pick it because of natural interest and not only that passively, but what my organization then business needs. So right now there's a huge need for cybersecurity with ransomware rat hacks that happen in the hospital. Rye UK, Conti, there's some dirty malware out there which are basically triggering a lot of ransomware payments for a lot of our customers in hospitals. So there's been a need to look into that sort of area of security, and I've always had an interest in it, so it's well suited to me. But I don't know. There's also other areas and opportunities I could sort of delve into. But right now, there's opportunities in wireless. I think wireless is another big one that could make it a comeback, especially as Wi-Fi 6.
Yeah,
is going to be huge. But I spent 12 years in telecoms. I'm not really into wireless anymore. I've done my client. I know it's different, but like, I just want to do something a little different as opposed to like still doing like wireless networks and things of that nature. So it all depends where you are at your career, I think, and what you hold interest. And I don't necessarily. It's not always about the money for me. It's what you find interesting and what you can do on a daily basis, and what you like to participate in, as opposed to what I can get out of it.
Yeah, no, agreed. I think that's I think cybersecurity is going to be huge. I think you just, at the end of the day, you go with what you're interested in, right? So
yeah, and I kind of feel when you pick something, I kind of feel like it's the industry you pick's going to get its turn. I kind of feel.
Yep.
Like if you just concentrate in something and be the best in it, eventually like the wheel's going to spin and you'll be like, okay, it's wireless this time. Now it's DevOps. Now they all have a breakthrough and they all need new resources and a fresh pair of eyes in order to like go into those sort of subjects. And if you're just good at what you do, by the time it spins on whatever industry or subject you're on, you're going to be the boss.
Yep. It's IT is very cyclical. So, things come and go, things of that nature. So you just have to just be prepared for that. And, it's part of the game, right? It's part of staying ahead. It's part of, being current, but also future proofing yourself for when that change does come. You're not like left in the, I don't want to say left in the cold, but you're not, you're still valued. You're still, needed, aware, things of that nature.
Yeah, I agree.
100%. So those are just a couple things that Dean and I wanted to talk about and obviously touch on as far as, what's hot and things of that nature. And that whole, hey, does your personality fit your IT job? That was totally off the cuff. So I threw that at Dean. So nice job on that, my man. I like that.
No worries.
So I like to keep it fresh here. We like to keep it fresh and keep each other on our toes. So that was kind of it. Dean, did you have anything else to hit on here? I know we kind of talked about a bunch of different things, and next week we'll talk about a brand new topic. But we kind of wanted to finish up with what we were talking about last week, and then do sort of like a what's hot section to kind of fill in any gaps.
For me, what's hot, I agree. Security is a hot thing. I'm currently studying for my CCNP security, so I kind of feel that's a hot subject, a vast amount of knowledge and understanding with that certification. I also concur with DevOps as well. I think that's huge. However, I think there's a time and place for DevOps. I kind of feel that you really need to get your subject knowledge and understanding down in order to really participate in DevOps. And I could be wrong because I don't hold a DevOps certification, but to me it makes more sense of you understand the technology you're writing code for. But if someone has different ideas and ideologies about that, please let me know, because I'm all about relearning and having different methods. But to me that makes more sense. I would more hold fire on the DevOps and sort of look for solid things in IT that can enhance your understanding of things you can leverage. And I kind of feel like security, wireless, and then possibly understanding that technologies, then going into DevOps to leveraging those new skills is probably going to be seriously advantageous.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think you need a foundation before you start going into DevOps, because you're bringing a solution to the table before you know what the problem is. We're not understanding the underlying of the problem. So I feel like a good foundation would be the networking stuff, and then DevOps on top of that, because then you're solving or you're making things more efficient with the DevOps side of the house, but you're still fixing a problem at that level. You're just doing it in a different way.
Precisely, yeah. And that would be my kind of spin on what the current certifications out there hold out. And security doesn't, in my respect, doesn't have to be Cisco. It could be CompTIA.
Yep.
There's Palo Alto do security. There's lots of different vendors right now we're doing security. So just getting that knowledge in security and different aspects in security. A lot of them, like what I'm going through in the Cisco certification, it's very Cisco platform driven.
Right.
And there is good theory behind it, but it's definitely directed towards their products,
to their gear,
solutions. Yeah.
So that makes sense.
It's precisely.
That makes sense.
Getting an idea of or any sort of security certification, I think, is definitely going to be advantageous in 2020.
Yep, 100%. Yeah. So that was kind of it. Next week we have some cool stuff going on next week. So, and then we'll see where we land after that. So again, my obligatory end of show notes. So here we go. Thanks for joining us this week on So You Want to Be in IT. Visit our website, soyouwanttobein.it.buzzsprout.com. That's where we host the show. So you can listen to the show right from there, or subscribe to your favorite platform right from there, right? iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, etc. Or pretty much anywhere you get an RSS feed, we're there. So if you could throw us a rating on iTunes, that'd be awesome. That fools with the algorithms and gets us shuffled to the top of the list as far as the hot, new, fresh, whatever you want to call it. That way we get more people, more exposure, etc., etc. That'd be cool. And then obviously follow us on Twitter at So You Want to Be in IT, and then Facebook.com/SoYouWantToBeInIT, and then Instagram at So You Want to Be in IT. That's it, man. This was a good episode. I thought we really did some good things and had some cool topics. Next week, like I said, we got some cool stuff for next week. And Dean, anything else before we get out of here?
No, just stay safe. Thanks for joining. And we'll have stay tuned and we'll have more for you next week. Thank you.
Sounds good, guys. Again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.